Salut YouTube!
Salut YouTube!
I've got a friend with me today, Mandy. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell them who you are, what you do?
Yeah.
What's your star sign?
Well, actually, I'm an Aquarius Pisces cusp. The whole thing. Hi, my name's Mandy or Amanda. I am an Instagrammer, blogger, but I'm also an English teacher here in Paris. I've been in Paris about 5-ish years.
Yeah, where are you from originally?
I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana.
I know that you guys like to always follow my guests and check out a little bit more about them. Life through your eyes, which is different to life through my eyes. So of course we're going to link the Instagram and everything down below so that you can go and stalk Mandy. But not before watching this video because we have got a really exciting topic for you guys, which is all around the level of English in France. Mandy's an English teacher here at the moment, so I mean she's got an opinion on this, which is why I brought her in for this video. We're going to have a chat about that, why the level of English is what it is in France. So there's this thing called the English Proficiency Index, and it measures a whole heap of people from the countries all throughout Europe, and they figure out, you know, the ranking basically, who speaks English the best or not. And France does have the lowest rating in Western Europe. Wow. And out of all of Europe, including Russia, there are only 3 countries I think that are worse off than France, and that is Turkey, Russia, and Ukraine. So in terms of the entire European landmass, that's where France sits.
Well, so the thing is, I think that the French speak English.
Yeah.
I've spoken French since I was 11, so it's kind of hard. I've never come here and struggled to communicate.
Yeah.
But I definitely have seen, you know, other travelers or my friends have come and been really nervous to communicate with the French because they're worried that they're not going to be understood or that no one will speak English to them. So it can be very stressful. But personally, I have noticed that the level, I mean, it's obvious, the level of English here is definitely a lot lower than I was just in Copenhagen and everybody there was perfectly bilingual. Yeah. They could even imitate a Scottish accent, a British accent, and an American accent, like perfectly. France, we're not there yet.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about why that is actually in just a minute. I'm the same, you know, working in HR, I'm often seeing CVs in front of me that say that they're bilingual in English, and obviously when you have the interview, you realize that it's not necessarily the case. And I think, obviously I have a huge amount of empathy because I learned French on the ground, so it's been hard. It's been hard. I have noticed in Paris, basically everyone speaks English. They don't necessarily like to do so. Correct. Which is fair enough. I know that there's a lot of history between France and England. And of course, the stereotype is true that as you go further south, the harder it gets to communicate. And so we were trying to figure out why this might be. And so do you have any opinions, I guess, coming from how English gets taught in the schooling system?
Well, so it's interesting. I've asked all of my co-teacher friends because, you know, we always speak in French together in all of our meetings, the conseil d'école and everything. We're always speaking in French. And I've asked them, you know, a lot of times they like to tell me that they parlent anglais comme un vache espagnole, which is one of my favorite French phrases because a Spanish-speaking cow is already speaking English. I don't get it. I love it. Yeah. But I think it has everything to do with generational, I believe. So the teachers that I have asked, they're around 40 to 50 years old, and they were taught English in a strictly written format. They were taught grammar, rules first, and then conversation. But conversation came much, much later. So what I've been told by most of them is that their main focus was writing, writing, writing. Yeah. And then when it finally came time to speak, they were so nervous about their grammar being incorrect that they just like blocked. Right. That's everybody always says that. Je me bloque. Yeah. Je me bloque.
They're so harsh on themselves. Yes. In their own language in terms of grammar and rules. It's such a sign. It's such a sign of sophistication, and that there are so many complex rules in France. So it's natural that your mastery of the language is an indication. I guess it's a social currency.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so they're so harsh with themselves in English, and it's like, guys, we don't care.
The generation, I think people our generation, the Parisians and the French who are learning English now are getting more of a sense that conversation is the most important thing. So I know in the last 2 years where I've been teaching, the kids that are CP all the way to CM1, we are mostly doing oral exercises all the time.
That's a great change. Again, it was grammar books, it was heads down. It sounds like quite a painful way to learn a language.
I think it seems to be. And a lot of Formulaic phrases. Brian is in the kitchen.
Yes.
Where is Brian?
I've also heard that a lot of their teachers are, their English teachers are French.
Yes.
And this shocked me because I was like, there are so, I mean, you're right next door to the UK,
Hello.
firstly. Hi.
Yeah.
Like,
ding dong.
for me, the cliche was that, you know, people from the UK coming over to live the good life in France, basically. There must be just English teachers everywhere scrambling to get jobs here. And so I assumed every single English teacher would be a native English speaker, but it's actually not the case.
It's almost never.
Yeah, almost never the case. And you find people, you know, French people who again they've done their PhDs in literature and English, and it's fantastic, but they're still teaching English with their accent.
I have every day in my classroom there's a word of the day, and one of the words of the day was bathroom. Santé, impossible. And the pronunciation guide said bathroom. Instead of even trying the TH sound.
So they're being taught
the incorrect pronunciation.
Right.
I understand the TH is not a sound that you have in French. It must make it very complicated. However, that is a learning device that's in many classrooms across the country.
Yeah.
It's either bathroom or bath with an F.
Right, but the is in so many words, including thank you, and a very, very essential word. So it's kind of shocking because it's kind of a must, really.
Yeah. Well, even if you can sing happy birthday, which I know you all can because everybody does, you can see the TH.
I've also heard that, I mean, at least for our generation growing up, you got so much shit for your accent.
Oh, yeah.
So if you speak English, you know, with a correct accent, firstly, you're a snob, like you're arrogant and know-it-all, you know, they'll take the piss because of that. But then if you have an accent de merde, I mean, you can't really...
I speak very well English.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, but you all are so mean to each other.
You're so mean to each other. Like, I mean, when French people hear each other speaking English, straight away it's like
horrible.
They just mock each other, whether it's good or whether it's bad.
Yeah.
You can't win.
You can't. That's why you say you don't speak English. You're like, je parle pas.
Yeah, as soon as they start speaking English, they feel embarrassed and humiliated because they think what's going on in our head is like, this guy, look at his accent. Guys, we're not that mean.
We're honestly going, ooh.
Yeah.
I like that. The last 2 years I was an intervenante in the classrooms. So what I would do is I would go into the classrooms and teach English with the teacher. Would help with accents and songs and cultural things. And many of my teachers would say to me, I'm not going to teach the English in front of you because I'm so embarrassed of my level of English. And you know, you're teaching, you know, you don't really have a choice. In every school that I have worked in, they have told me that their requirement is 45 minutes of English per week, which is not very much. And especially if it's 45 minutes from someone who doesn't like speaking English or doesn't feel that they're good at speaking English, it becomes the first thing that's easy to just cut. Yeah. Oh, we really need to do our math, so we're just gonna skip English this week. But I do believe, I actually have students as young as 3. Wow. Because I'm in a maternal school. Maternelle. And then also an elementary school. So it is getting younger and younger. And I think that parents are seeing the value of it and pushing more for more English education for their children in schools, which is good and important, I think. But my students love speaking English.
As they have access to media in English, I mean, it's going to change their lives. And a lot of French people say, I mean, my English improved so much once I started binging
Netflix.
Friends. Yeah. But on that point, I mean, there is that protection of the French language also, which is, I guess it's this fear in France that the more we expose ourselves to English, the less French will be, but it's not mutually exclusive.
I think you can speak both. I had a host dad who spoke perfect English because he worked for a very big software company. He was constantly traveling all over the world. His English was flawless. And he would tell me that when English speaking tourists would come up to him in the street, he would pretend not to speak English. Yeah. Just because he was like, they need to learn how to ask me in French, which I also understand. The whole like, again, where's the Eiffel Tower? Instead of saying, excusez-moi, est-ce que vous parlez anglais? Where's the Eiffel Tower? You know, learning those small phrases to unlock then the French who do speak English is one thing that I think tourists need to do a better job of. Yeah. Because I think it would make the French feel more comfortable. I think going back to this negativity towards towards English and anglicizing, I have a really good friend who just opened a bakery in the 12. It's a Californian style bakery. She's from California, but she did pastry school here in France. So she's got all the French basics, but she's making cookies and cheesecakes and stuff. Yeah. And she has all of her signs in English. Open, closed, her placard, like sandwich board out front is all like, come on in, you know, we've got cookies, we've got blah, blah, blah. And she said that for the most part, all the people, younger millennials and younger people come in and they love it. It's, oh, it's English, it's like California, we love it in here. But she's had several older people come in and say like, I don't understand why all of your signs are in English. We're in France, you need to learn English. And just, I definitely think it's generational.
Yeah, interesting. So there's hope yet.
Yes.
Maybe they're running a little bit behind, but that's fine. I mean, yeah, and I mean, as we said, in general, when you come to Paris, most people here are going to be able to speak English. They don't necessarily want to, but again, if you just say those like magic French words up front, it will unlock.
Bonjour. Excusez-moi. Parlez-vous anglais?
Exactly.
You're done.
You're done. And then don't forget, merci.
Yes, merci is so important.
Yeah, it's such an interesting topic. I think we could talk about it for hours. If you're French and you've had an experience of growing up in an education system that taught you English, I'd love to hear your opinion about it down below. Let us know. You don't have to let us know exactly how old you are, but we would be interested generationally if there are differences in everything down below. Otherwise, don't forget to go and check out Mandy's Instagram. I'll see you next Video Wednesday on the Not Even French channel. À bientôt.
À toutes.
Bye.